First of all, thanks very much for coming. It's always tricky when it's a 9 o'clock in the morning session, so thanks for making the effort to come over. Hopefully, today's discussion or session is really more of an interactive discussion where I wanted to talk a little bit more about our story, our challenges, our lessons learned. But I'm sure you will have lots of questions, maybe after the session. More than happy to kind of stand on the side here and we have discussions, or we can connect via LinkedIn or Twitter and have more discussions this way. So my name is Mohamed Mostafa. I'm a Microsoft MVP and I'm also the solution director or managing director of TechLabs London. TechLabs London is the company behind an ISV solution that is built on the Power Platform and on Dynamics 365. It's called iProperty Cloud. So this is a quick introduction of myself. So I've been working in lots of different Microsoft partners throughout my career. Most recently, I was the director of the Dynamics CRM practice at KPMG until in 2017 I started TechLabs London. And I think one of the interesting things about this is that when I was starting TechLabs London, the idea was not to have another Microsoft Dynamics partner just like every other Dynamics partner. I wanted us to be an ISV partner, and a partner who has their own ISV solution and implement their own solution to their customers. And we'll talk more about this. But I think it's important to note here that there are so many system integrators of different sizes, small, medium, and large. It's a very competitive market. But it's not the same when it comes to ISVs, and especially ISVs that build solutions for specific industries. So that's me. The most kind of key thing that to mention is when I started TechLabs London, I started this bootstrapped, if you're familiar with the term, or basically no funding. And I know it's very common for Microsoft partners to start with big round of funding and then try to kind of work from there. I actually started it completely from scratch. My own kind of investment, and grew it over the past 2 years to 25 people, and thankfully now across 3 different continents. So we've got an office, obviously our head office in London, but we have our development center in Cairo, and we have just opened our Dubai office 2 weeks ago. We'll talk more about this. So when I was working at a Big Four, and I was director of a Big Four practice. And I was in a good role, well-paid role, and I decided to leave all of this and start my TechLabs London practice and the ISV partner. And as you can imagine, I had lots of people coming to me saying, "You're crazy. Why you're doing this?" I had people telling me, "Don't do it. Just stay sane and don't leave this kind of well-paid job in a very good company." And it's generally, I had people telling me, Mohammed, just think twice about what you're doing. You're going the wrong way. I had, people giving me lots of emotional comments. But why? I just still don't understand why you're doing it. So I guess the point is there'll be a lot of emotional people or emotional responses when you decide to make that big kind of move. But you always have to think about, are you doing the right thing? And if you think you're doing the right thing and you think you've got a good chance of doing it, obviously don't just do it without planning, without having a proper strategy for it. But I think it's really important to take yourself to something different, something more challenging than what you're doing, if you really feel that you can succeed in that. So that was my motto. I got a few more kind of, I would say, more rational questioning. Which is part of what we're discussing today, is Microsoft really focusing on ISVs, or is just a slogan? And it's an important question. If you were to consider setting up your own Microsoft ISV, it's very important to ask yourself that question. And the other very important question is, how can you actually differentiate yourself in a very crowded market? So in an ISV market, or in general, the industry that you will be working in, most probably is going to be a crowded market. So in our case, iProperty Cloud, it's a solution for the property and real estate market. Now, it's a very crowded market with lots of different technology providers or vendors who have solutions in this area, but not a lot of Dynamics partners who've got ISVs in this area. So there are obviously others, but there are not that many. So our focus was, because we have the industry knowledge, we knew that industry and markets pretty well, and we've built in this kind of built for solutions in Dynamics and Power Platform previously for customers or clients in this area. which meant we've got this kind of additional edge of knowing this market. But there are important questions, and you always have to ask yourself these questions. But let's look at the global market in terms of ISVs, the concept of being an ISV, which is to build on another platform. That obviously Microsoft is what we're talking about today, but there are other platforms. Salesforce, some ISVs build on Salesforce, on Oracle, on SAP, whatever. According to, and that's very recent researches that, or research that has been out in October 2019, where, for example, they say independent software vendors market is thriving worldwide. Independent software vendors market is growing rapidly here in Gallus, Australia. Chicago, the new report showing next level growth for independent software vendor. So the market is ripe for ISVs. It's not that it's a global market that is saturated and there are so many ISVs in the world and you'll be wasting your time. Actually not, it is a good market. So that's the global market. But then let's go into our focus, which is the Microsoft ISV partner market. Now, why would you go and build on Microsoft Cloud? What's the advantage? Because think about this, it's very important to think. If you are an ISV, existing ISV, new ISV, or someone who's considering to be an ISV, or even if you're an SI and you want to start up your own kind of ISV practice or ISV kind of product, you need to ask yourself, should I build this on top of the Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform platforms, or should I go and build this completely custom? Because obviously if you build it on a platform, you have every customer, every user that buys your solution has to pay for the license of this platform. So why would you go and build it on Microsoft Cloud and Microsoft Dynamics 365 or Microsoft Power Platform and not go and build it custom? And I think it's a very important reason why you would do it, and that's why we've done it this way. Not just because I've got experience with Dynamics throughout my career, but reliability. When I go to speak to a real estate customer, whatever that type of customer is, and I tell them our solution is hosted on our own servers, in our own data center, the first response or back in their mind will be thinking, oh, it's in your garage. Literally, right? Because you're a small ISV, you're not going to start up as an ISV with 200 people, right? You're going to start up an ISV with few people, and you're not going to have the thousands and thousands or millions of billions of money that Microsoft has and spent on Azure hosting. So why don't you go and say, this is hosted on Microsoft Azure and Microsoft Cloud. I'm not hosting anything for you. Your data is at Microsoft. Microsoft is responsible for your data integrity, your data security. Microsoft is responsible for the SLAs. It's a completely different ballgame. It's not the same as going in and say, I've got it in a server in our office, or I got it in a server in a data center. It's a completely different discussion. But add to that, obviously, if you were an on-premise solution, you probably have a very difficult time trying to sell an ISV solution if you were to consider to do it ISV. So I'm not going to really go through this kind of as an option. The second reason, it's the opportunity. The opportunity of building on top of the Microsoft Cloud Platform that comes with that. So it's when you build on the Microsoft Cloud Platform, you are automatically a potential seller or a vendor to any customer who is considering Microsoft Power Platform or considering Microsoft Dynamics. So think about it the other way. Microsoft is doing a lot of marketing, a lot of campaigns talking about Dynamics 365, talking about Power Platform, and you have a solution that is targeting this platform. So all these potential customers, all the real estate customers in our case, that are looking at Dynamics as one of the options or Power Platform as one of their options, they are there looking for you as an ISV partner who can deliver this solution, industry solution in our case, for the property market on top of that platform that they're already interested in. So that's a very key thing. Additionally, when Microsoft are out targeting enterprise customers or even medium-sized customers, or even if you've got resellers that are focusing on the SMC market, like Office 365 resellers, they are out there trying to win customers into the whole Microsoft platform, not just Dynamics. So imagine how many customers are there in the world that are using Office 365, including medium-sized customers and small-sized customers. If you go and tell them my solution that sits on top of the Microsoft Cloud and the Office 365 and Dynamics is just an additional tool to your existing tool set, it's a completely different discussion again. So you've got the direct referrals from Microsoft, you've got indirect referrals from Microsoft, which is in the case of where they are out looking for someone with a solution for their platform. But then the most, and in my opinion, the biggest advantage with an opportunity of being a Microsoft ISV is the co-sell opportunity. That is a serious stuff. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I don't work for Microsoft anyway, but the Cosell is genuinely a very important program where if you can get your ISV solution to be Cosell ready, which is almost like a trademark in Microsoft, inside Microsoft, it means that Microsoft sellers are being rewarded every time they sell your solution. So every Microsoft seller working in a different industry, they are looking for the Cosell ready solutions in that industry to go and sell it. Why? Not because they like you, not because you have a good relationship with them, but because your solution is going to tick lots of their boxes if you are Cosell ready. So co-selling is really key. We'll talk a little bit more about their numbers as well on the next slide. So 2 main reasons so far, and I'm going to go with the third most important reason, which is really innovation. So innovation. Now, if we were to build our solution completely custom in our own, let's say we build it on SQL database and .NET, and we do it completely custom and we host it ourselves, what's the advantage you have? When you go and compete with someone who built everything on top of the Microsoft Cloud. The difference is when someone has built on Microsoft Cloud, you have thousands of other developers and Microsoft developers and other Microsoft technologies that you can go and sell to your customers, or you can go and sell as part of your sale of your own product to your customers. So imagine this discussion. You go into the customer and say, you're buying Dynamics 365 with my solution on top of it, but that's not what you're buying. You're actually buying the whole Microsoft ecosystem, right? You're buying all the innovation that comes with Microsoft. Every time Satya Nadella makes an announcement of a new technology, you already have the ability to use this or capability or functionality or new technology. Why? Because you're already in the Microsoft Cloud. So compare that to someone who says, oh, we're just our own solution on our own kind of hosting in our own data center, and we're not connected to anything, but we promise you we're going to build a chatbot in 5 years' time or in 2 years' time. It's a different discussion, but the chatbot is, or the AI builder, or whatever the virtual power virtual agents that have been announced recently. All these things are available to your customers from day one, from the day they purchase your solution. So why would you go and build in the Microsoft Cloud and Microsoft Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform? I would say, in my view, and I'm sure there will be other reasons and other additional reasons, but there are 3 main ones: is reliability, opportunity, and the ability to do innovation, and the ability to sell that in a wider innovation that Microsoft is doing for you. So the co-sell opportunity, I'm not going to go through the numbers, but these are some of the numbers that Microsoft announced for the 2018 co-sell program. There are billions of kind of potential revenue globally for partners through the co-sell opportunity, and I can vouch for that. So we are co-sell ready since January or February 2018, and we have had Microsoft sellers coming to us, talking to us. It's not an experience you would always. I was working for a big 4 where I was kind of trying to connect with lots of different Microsoft sellers to co-sell with them and try to work with them many years ago. But now with TechLabs London and iProperty Cloud, we were a small ISV partner, and when we started, you wouldn't expect a Microsoft seller to actually come and talk to you, but they do. Why? Because you are co-sell ready. So again, stressing the point of the importance of the co-sell program and the benefits for the seller, for Microsoft, and for yourself. It's a really win-win for everyone. I wanted to go very quickly about our own story, how our story started, where we were, and I'm going to do that in a couple of minutes. More than happy to talk more about it, but I just wanted to give you a feel for how we've done it and how we managed to go from. We started in January 2017, early 2017, set up TechLabs London, and we spent 12 months building the product. Now, building the minimum viable product, MVP, of the iProperty Cloud solution. But you really have to have that MVP up and running and ready before you go out to the market. Because if you go out to the market without a not ready solution, and you reach out to some customers, or potential customers, and you reach out to some Microsoft sellers, but then when it comes to the real world, and you have to go and demo something, or you have to you've won something and you have to implement it, if you haven't got the solution ready, you're going to lose a lot. You're going to lose existing potential customers, and you're going to lose Microsoft interest as well. So my advice is always to make sure, and that's one of the big lessons that thankfully we didn't have to go through this, but one of the big lessons I would like to share with you is that make sure that your product is ready at least MVP before you go out to the market. As soon as we had the product ready, we put it on AppSource. Now I know there are mixed opinions about AppSource, especially maybe a year ago or so, people had mixed opinions. But for us, it was a given. We had to go on put our solution on AppSource because we have to be on AppSource to be Cosell ready anyway. And you know what? We had more than 280 leads from AppSource since we put it on AppSource in March. So we connected AppSource to our own internal Dynamics CRM solution. And every time someone goes on AppSource and fills in a form, this gets created as a lead in our own Dynamics CRM solution. We had 280 since March. Now, not all of them are good leads, and that's another lesson, something very important for any ISV partner has to think about, is that you can't go after every single lead. There'll be so many leads. You have to qualify leads, and you have to qualify hard before you take it to the next level, because it's going to take from your time, it's going to take from your effort, and it's going to put you down. If you have a startup mentality and you go and spend a month and a half trying to win a deal that they never had a budget for you anyway, you will feel down at the end of the month and a half or 2 months of effort and you got nothing. So you have to qualify hard. Additionally, as part of those 280 leads, we also had leads where there are partners who are just downloading our solution to have a look. Or whatever they wanted to do. So again, you have to be careful around this, because you will have other Microsoft partners that sometimes trying to sneak into your solution and having a look at what you've done. You might be happy to do that and show it off, but you always have to think about your intellectual property, IP, and how you're going to protect your IP. And that's a whole different subject, because protecting your IP, especially in the Dynamics world, is not the easiest thing to do. So you have to design that technically in a way that you can protect all of it, or at least most of it. But that's a different discussion. More than happy to discuss that. I had a webinar about protecting IP specifically. If you're interested, I'm more than happy to share with you. We've put it on AppSource, and then SMC, as Microsoft calls it, or small and medium-sized clients or customers, started to come through AppSource. We had a few direct as well, so we out into the market. Don't build your ISV solution and sit behind it. You actually need to be in front of it and going out to the market and knocking on doors and speaking to people, knocking on Microsoft doors as well as customers and potential customers. But the difference that we had was the significant focus on a specific industry. When you're building up an ISV solution, you will always think, oh, let's make it as wide as possible so we can catch as many types of customers as possible. That actually might work, but it's not always the best thing to do. In our case, we focused on very, very specific target industry. And so within the big real estate industry, we focus on the private residential sales and private residential lettings. We build our solution 100% for that. So in our case, in the UK, we had out-of-the-box integrations with Facebook, Twitter, something called Rightmove, which is a property portal in the UK, and Zoopla, out of the box. We had automated matching engine to match applicants to properties and properties to applicants. We really target that very thin, if you like, industry within the bigger, wider real estate industry. And then after we got success with that, we started to branch out to the additional verticals or sub-verticals within the main vertical. So that really helped a lot, because when we go and talk to a customer, even if they're looking at Dynamics and talking to other big partners, we're going there with a solution that is already ready, done. It does exactly what they want, very, very targeted to their niche, while the Dynamics partner is saying, I can build all of this for you in 12 months, don't worry. So obviously it's a completely different proposal in our case. We were 6 people, and in September 2018, when we started to win our first large enterprise customer. And from then, it just really, the growth has been fairly quick. Today, we are 25 people, and as I mentioned earlier, we are in 3 different continents now. I like to call it continents. They are 3 different continents. We've got, obviously, our office in the UK, where we're targeting the whole UK market and European market. But we also have an office in Dubai, which we're targeting now the whole Middle East market, and there's lots of property development in the Middle East, especially in Dubai, so our office is in Dubai. And then we have our development center is in Cairo, and that's where there are loads of, pretty much all our techies and all our senior developers and technical leads are there. The one thing that you always have to think about is that our product development did not stop when we put it on AppSource. Our product development is always ongoing. This is a product. You have to, I don't know how many people here come from an SI, system integrator background. Anyone from SI background? Okay. How many is from an ISV background? So the thinking of ISV is very, very different from an SI. I worked in SI all throughout my career. The ISV thinking is about continuous development of your product. You cannot stop. I remember someone once said, if you stop to innovate, your product will die. Because if you stop adding more features to your product, you will be behind the curve, and the next ISV or the next vendor will be way ahead of you, and you will just die out. So you have to continue to innovate all the time, or else your product will die out eventually. So our product development is a continuous innovation. We always look at innovation. To be completely blunt and open, customers really look at the flashy, innovative stuff much more than the hard work that you've been doing in the back end. This is genuine, right? So we have this matching engine that took us months to do. It's a very intelligent matching engine to match applicants to properties and properties to applicants. But it's a button on the solution, right? You click on that button and all the matches appear. I was like, yeah, good. But then you go and show them speech-to-text recognition embedded in Dynamics, which took us a week to do. And they're like, whoa, this is impressive. And you think in the back of your mind, this took us a week, and this took us like 3 months of hard work, and we're still going to innovate on it. But they really like to see that innovative, flashy stuff. The matching engine is almost a given in their view, but the speech-to-text recognition and the dictation functionality is what brings in the benefits and the wow factor to your product. So again, think about that while you're doing it. So that leads me to what I was talking about throughout, which is innovation, innovation, innovation. It is really key to continue to innovate all the time. And also think about the wider Microsoft Cloud. Going back to my earlier comments around, you're not just building on a platform. You have a whole array of other innovative products and solutions that you can bring into your own ISV. So to give you an example, iProperty Cloud, there's now Power Virtual Agents. We've already built a virtual agent targeting specifically the property and real estate market, built on top of the Power Virtual Agent. So we didn't have to go and spend years to come up with an AI-based virtual agent or chatbot. We actually used the Microsoft Virtual Agent that has been announced, and we configured it and tailor it to the specific industry and market of the real estate and the property market. So always think about those innovations. I've got 3 examples of 3 innovations that we've done. And the first one is the Azure speech-to-text or Azure speech recognition. So using the Azure speech recognition inside Dynamics 365, we embedded a web resource. For those familiar with Dynamics and Power Platform, we embedded a web resource, or could be a PCF control nowadays, where you can dictate inside Dynamics, inside your Dynamics apps, iPhone apps, iPad apps, whatever. If I'm going out as a real estate agent showing someone a property, I actually, rather than typing the feedback, or rather than writing it on a piece of paper, which happens in most cases, and then going back to the office and type it up, I actually dictate that directly inside Dynamics. I don't have to do it in a separate system. I don't have to navigate to other screens. I do it inside my appointment or whatever type of entity, and in there I've got my text. And that saves, we calculated that to save at least 48% of time for the person who would have to write it down, which is a typical practice, go back and type it up. So 48% efficiency. This is real money, real savings for your customers. And always think about this. How is my innovation, it's not just innovation, how is my innovation going to save my customers money? How it's going to bring in efficiency? How it's going to automate it so that they get more benefits from it? A second innovation, we built a photo gallery embedded inside Dynamics 365. It's a drag and drop functionality. You go on any form factor, any device, you can literally drag and drop your photos into Dynamics, and you have a photo gallery with carousel functionality, with a slider functionality. You can even edit the photos inside Dynamics. When you upload the photo automatically resized. There's an industry standard. There is an industry standard which I think is 414 pixel by 620 pixels. So we understood all of that, and we tried to put it embedded inside Dynamics. Again, that kind of innovation is really important. The third one was the market intelligence. What we did is we found that lots of our competitors have separate products to bring in market intelligence about real estate. So for example, what's the local crime in this area? I'm buying in this area, I want to know what's the local crime, I want to know what's the age group of this local area. All of this information is actually available publicly. So what we did, we built APIs to read all this area, display it inside the property record inside Dynamics, inside the Power Platform. So you open up the property record in Dynamics, you see everything, you don't need to go anywhere else. On my property, I've got tabs. One tab is for mapping. I've got Google Maps, street maps. I've got satellite maps. I've got local information. I've got market information. I've got the previous prices that were sold. This property was sold at in the past 7 years, the same property or the same area. I can see the trend of the property prices in this area. All of that in the same record, right? I can see the crime rate. I can see the local age groups, as I mentioned, education level. All this information in one place. So the amount of value that brings to the customer is massive, it's huge, right? That will really make sense to your customers when you talk about, look, we're using Microsoft Azure functions in the cloud to integrate to this kind of system to bring you all this data into one single screen. That kind of innovation really what ticks the box. Now, conscious of time, how is Microsoft supporting ISVs? There are so many programs that Microsoft has announced and is continuing to announce on ISVs. I'm just listing some of those programs. Obviously, you've got the App Source. There's the new ISV Connect program for Dynamics 365 partners and Power Platform partners. Really important program. You have to be on it. If you are early stage of your ISV product development, you need to be a co-build partner. So you go in as an ISV co-build partner. Microsoft is helping you to build your solution. Now, they're not coding for you. They're not going to give you developers, but they're going to support you in your building kind of phase. And then once you become co-build ready, you become a Cosell, or you can finish your co-build, you become Cosell ready. So again, this is other programs, ISV Cloud Embed. Microsoft, if you are an ISV Connect partner, you can actually run marketing campaigns with Microsoft. You can even have Microsoft tweeting on your product, and we have iProperty Cloud being tweeted by the Microsoft Twitter handle to say, look at our ISVs, one of our ISV partners delivering a solution on the Power Platform, and so on. So there's a lot of help that Microsoft can give. Now, important lessons learned before I go. No one is going to do it for you, though. Don't think that Microsoft support means they are going to do it for me. I just need to build a product and I'll sit back and Microsoft is going to sell it for me. It's never going to happen, right? I don't think Microsoft claims they're going to ever do this to you. So you have to really work extremely hard for it. No one is going to do it for you. It's a lot of hard work. Do not underestimate the amount of time and effort that you need to do. You always have to think about disrupting. Don't just follow the norms, right? Don't follow, everyone else is doing this, I'm going to just do exactly the same. No. You know what? I've worked in Microsoft partners throughout my career. Every time I start to do something, I say, oh, I'm doing this because that's how I've always done it as a kind of a practice director and a Microsoft partner. I always did it this way. You know what? I'm going to do it completely different now. So always try to be different, try to disrupt, to differentiate yourself. When it makes sense, obviously, don't overdo it, but when it makes sense. And then it's important also to think that success has many forms, right? Success is not just about how much money you've made. Success is not just about how many people you have in your company. Success means there are many forms of success. So don't just think that for me to be successful, I have to be earning this amount of money or my company has to be making that much revenue. Success has many forms, right? Because at the start of your journey, and I had that, is lots of people, even in Microsoft, lots of people saying, so how many people work in your company? And I say, well, that doesn't really mean anything to you. If I have 200 people or I have 5 people, I am selling you a product, right? I'm not an SI, I'm not a system integrator, I'm selling you a product. This product, it either works or it doesn't work. And I have the product in front of you. I'm not saying I will be showing you my product. Our product is in front of you. You want to test it? Go ahead and test it. But it doesn't matter how many people I have in my company. It doesn't matter how much revenue you made last year, right? You think outside of the box in this regard, and always, as I said, think of success in many different forms. Don't think it's just about how many people you have. Last point is around you have to take risks, right? It's the first day, as I started my presentation, the first thing I did, I took a lot of risk by leaving a well-paid job in a very good company to start my own ISV. But it was a calculated risk. I knew what I was doing. I had a very good strategy and plan before I started. And I knew that there was going to be a lot of challenges. Well, not as much as I faced, but I knew there was going to be a lot of challenges. And according to that, I took the risk, and it was a calculated one. with that, I would like to thank you, and by all means, please connect to me if you want to discuss this more, if this subject is interesting to you. I do a number of webinars about lots of different things, both technical and business, but all focused around the Microsoft ISV side of things and building Microsoft ISV solutions, obviously specifically on Dynamics and the Power Platform if you want to do that. So you can, by all means, follow me on Twitter or connect to me on LinkedIn. And with that, I would like to thank you all for your attendance and for coming here, and it's lovely talking to you. Thank you.